seagulls follow the shore. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you.
And as we say now in my country, they brought the buzz and they left the buzz in front of the goal.
And the guy's talking absolute nonsense. Never heard so much rubbish in my life.
Normal men.
What do you mean, normal men?
We're just innocent men.
I'm telling you, don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, here we go. It's the old Tuesday ticket and it's at the earlier time. We're just throwing the bus out there anytime we want these days, man. It's great fun. But normally we are on at 9 at night, but Champions League football, millennials, Mark Kearney, what are they all about, man?
I know, mate. I know. I do know what to say about
Champions
them.
League football. Unless it's a scouting report you're doing, Jonathan, for who Celtic's going to pump next year, then I don't want to hear anything about pishy Champions League games. But anyway, we've decided to come on a wee bit earlier in advance of obviously the Champions League games kick off at 8 o'clock, I think. Nobody cares, mate. But anyway, we'll get on with it. All that good stuff. Hit like, share, slag my hair, all that patter. If you want to become a Boise Bus member, if there's loads in the night, by the way. Pam, Jim Dolan, Jim C, Balls to the Walls. That's one of my favourite names on the old bus. Balls to the Walls, love it. Ian McIntosh, 1888 CFC, Scott Cameron. There's so many of you on it, and we do appreciate it. If you want to become a member, it's $1.99. If you don't worry about it. The content's free. I would say you could still buy one of these, but you can't. And those who have, I really appreciate how patient you've been in waiting. They will be with you soon, I promise. We've only got a couple of weeks to wait now, and we'll get it all sorted then. Right, okay, and I'll write a wee note in that and say cheers to everyone and all that stuff as well. Do you know what I mean? If I can still remember how to write. Probably with crayons, Mark. You know what I mean?
Done it myself, mate. Don't worry about
it. Anyway, we've not had either of you on the bus since obviously Saturday. Fucking hell. It seems ages ago, to be honest. Been that much madness since then. That does seem a long time. You watched it with myself, Jonathan. It wasn't a performance that we're going to sit and rant and rave about. It was still enough, though, wasn't it?
Yes, Russell. I mean, it's been a week where we were talking about lock-ins and lock-outs. I was talking about last week. Celtic went and locked the door on Mikey Beale's title aspirations for yet another season. Mickey had no chance of an Easter resurrection in terms of getting himself back into the title race. So instead, what Mickey Beale seems to have been doing over the past few days is he's walked himself away from the title trophy room door that is locked, found himself a wee novel in the fiction area of the library. And I tell you what, he's been talking more pish than that Biff, Jeff and Kipper with what he's been coming out with of late, because some of this stuff has been quite frankly embarrassing. Meanwhile, Celtic have been in the non-fiction area of the same library, because history is in front of Celtic this season, because they are closing in on yet another league championship. They are closing in, perhaps, on yet another treble.
Brilliant, and that is facts, definitely not fiction, Jonathan. You're absolutely spot on. Those intros get me every time. Judge, I don't know how you follow that, mate, but we've not had you on the bus yet, believe it or not, since we did the wee pre-show, didn't we, on Friday? That was brilliant fun. In the afternoon, another impromptu bus. That was the last time we've had you on the bus. Sorry about the blether being missing, but I had absolutely no chance of getting its wheels turning at that time.
I can vouch for him. There was no chance he was doing that. I was with him on Saturday. You had no chance of getting that bus at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning or whenever you were running it.
No problem. I was a bit rough myself, to be honest with you, but I'll just echo with some things Jonathan was saying there. I mean, this is a mob that, don't forget, they whitewashed a liquidation. They whitewashed 20 years of cheating for the history of mankind. So it's nothing for them to come out and whitewash for their own memories a defeat on Saturday. We've got players with TikTok pages and Instagram posts dancing about with their taps off, looking like utter pricks. You know what I mean? Making a pure fanny of themselves, then coming out and saying that they never lost the match. Well, I must have missed something, because see, full time I was talking about mental. We beat the bastards 3-2. They were home greeting, so they must have been greeting about something. But one thing's for sure, when the end of the season comes, there'll be one club holding the trophy up, and there'll be one mob looking up at us as normal, and we look down at the cunts for what they are. Sorry about the language at 6 o'clock, but that's exactly what they are. Sorry.
We've gone from Jim White to Roy Keane.
Baby. They're just babies. Obviously, that's a Spanish version of Roy Keane, obviously.
That babies thing is really, he's acting like a baby. And he just pauses and goes,
that's why it turned into something that's no, isn't it?
I'm honest, I mean, Roy Keane is the man. I stand by it. And if it wasn't for Roy Keane, there'd be no bus term ever coined. So I will love a bit of Roy Keane on the bus. Mark, it was one of those it's one of those aftermaths that has went from the sheer ridiculous, and I think you're right to call out we didn't win they didn't win the game, we lost the game. I know there's a gap at the top of the table, but I just, in my mind's eye, it's not as big as what it is. Make that make sense, right? If you can't even look at a league table now, you know, the one thing that never lies is a league table, you know? If you can't even see that for what it is, and you would rather say, it's not really real though, is it? You can't help them. Then you get into the real meltdown. And the real meltdown has followed last night. So we've not actually spoke about this, and I know you'll have some good views on it, Mark. So I'll get you to take it away, Judge Kearney, because I think the fact they actually wrote in search of an apology is like pretty bold, considering everyone knows the definition of foul is, you know, 2 hands on the back push. That's just like, not definition of a foul, that's as stereotypical a foul as you'll ever see in your life. I accept if it was the other way around, we'd be pissed off, and I totally get that. But I'm not sure what they're meant to apologise for here, Judge Kearney. What do you want the SFA to do? Say, well, sorry for Morelos pushing over Alistair Johnston. They've got nothing they can apologise for. And then you start getting into the murky waters of Kevin Clancy getting abused. But that sort of shite triggers it, because you're letting all your fans focus on a decision that, yes, I accept we might have wanted in our favour if it was the other way around, but a decision that was given at the time that had no, in my opinion, bearing on how that game pans out. If you think you've scored a perfectly legitimate goal, guess what you do? You're full of confidence, you're full of beans, and you go on and win the game at a canter, even if it's not been given. That's not what happened, right? Because Celtic were too much for them again, and that is without us being at our best. But they wanted to focus on that one decision. They wanted to turn all their ire on that. They wanted to claim Jota had handballed it. And now it's Clancy's fault. And you see the darker side of the fixture where he's obviously had threats. The SFA released a statement saying they've had to report some to the police. Rangers come back out again and say, we can't confirm. They didn't apologise and they're astonished. See all this stuff? See, that's me trying to round it all up into and package it all into one wee sort of 30-second conversation there. But see, when you actually add all that up, Mark, that tells you the one thing they don't want to look at, and that's themselves.
Well, it's not what you say, it's the way you didn't say it. That's the way they see it, you know what I mean? They're focusing on the fact they didn't get an apology for their own player pushing a Celtic player. Okay, I'll accept it was soft. To be quite honest with you, in my opinion, that's no football. That's a legitimate goal. But do you know what? This is the kind of goals that Celtic are seeing chopped off, and we're seeing chopped off all over Europe, so I can see why it was chopped off. But if you put that to one side, that is just the consequences of the way football is in 2023. This isn't something that Celtic made up or Kevin Clancy made up, so Celtic had to win the match the other day there. Rangers know that. I mean, they were actually fueling a fire that was already burning for Clancy, because for the last couple of years now he's been getting called Father Clancy. The reason why they don't like him, and let's get this clear for anybody who's not sure, it's because he's a Catholic. Nothing to do with his history at Rangers refereeing matches, because they've won every single match he's refereed. This is the first match they've refereed that they've not won. He's refereed that they've not won. I've seen that only like 50% of Celtic games. I've seen only Celtic games that he's refereed, 50% of them they've only won. That's how clinical he is as a referee against Celtic. You know what I mean? So let's just get one thing clear here. And I think the bigger picture is, it's not about Saturday's decision. The bigger picture is they've turned this into another Willie Collum moment, because they will not get Willie Collum anywhere near a Rangers game for the foreseeable future. Kevin Clancy. They did the exact same Willie Collum. Yeah. What that does is, whether you're biased, unbiased, there's got to be something in your brain. If you're a referee, you've got to be scared to make decisions because it's detrimental for your career. If Rangers get the cup final, you know for a fact, I'm not going to get in there because I've been sin-died. I can't get near the Rangers match. Willie Collum was on that fucking bus for a while where he couldn't go in the Rangers games. And do you know what? This is a very clever tactic. Rangers know that game was done and dusted. But one thing I will say, I'm going to quote Jock's team here, kind of. He says that as long as other teams keep thinking we are lucky, then they'll never do anything to improve. And do you know what? If they think it's just luck or mythical. And do you remember, I remember a couple of years ago, and see Celtic fans, one thing about Celtic fans is we praise our team when we win, but we never see it, we never suffer fools gladly. And I remember Jeremy Culloch saying in a live game on that Celtic Paradise Pass, you remember that shite Lottie Piper? I remember he sat there and said the 20-point gap Rangers had was, it wasn't mythical, but he used a word like it was artificial. And I spat my tea out there from the glass at the telly, because the guy was an utter dick. We all knew he was a dick. We knew he was talking through a hole in his arse. We weren't that daft to soak it up. I've said before, the Rangers board and the Rangers hierarchy, they don't just pander to the crowd, they are the crowd. So see the shite that they spit out, they believe it themselves. And do you know what? It's a perfect machine of just utter bile, hatred, and it makes every time Celtic win a match against them even more delicious. And do you know what? We were shite on Saturday, I'm going to be honest, right? We walked away for that game winning 3-2, no need 2 or 3 gears to go. And then see these bastards, they went home greeting. That's all I want to say about that.
No, that's absolutely fair, Judge Kearney. And I think you're getting a lot of love in the comments as well. Jonathan, it does feel, though, like when a result like that happens, they just refuse, I should say. It's not that they don't have to do anything. They just refuse to look inwards at themselves. I don't know if you noticed as well, one of their official media partners, Jonathan, one of their...
I did see that video, yeah.
And he's just calling him a cheating bastard. I'm like, imagine if some...
That's like Mark Kearney being like the spokesman for Celtic and just coming out with that if we get a bad decision. Look, the Tynecastle of the season. Cheating bastard. We never got that handball.
Jonathan, I was actually going to announce that at the end of the show. That's why that Mark is actually now the new affiliation for the
He's the new
Celtic
face of
media
Celtic.
team. That's it. I was going to announce it later on, but you've blown it now. But I just think, see, when you combine all that, does seem to me here that and see as well, this is the other thing I was going to say, the gap. That's all everyone's talking about now as well. Nothing ever is looking at their deficiencies, their issues with trying to get up to Celtic's level. The fact that we all know come this summer they're going to be unable to, and no matter what spin they put on it, they'll be in Lidl's and Aldi, and we'll be hopefully somewhere a wee bit more up
Marks and
market.
Spencer.
Well, I doubt we'll be there. Do you know what I mean? Maybe like in the Tesco section. Do you know what I mean? Kim, they've got the Tesco value bits. We'll be in there. But I just feel like everything is getting positioned right now that, you know, that there's an injustice. The gap's not so big. It's a referee with an agenda. All this stuff, asking for apologies, you know, hate mail going to the ref and all this stuff. And I just look at it and go, anyone to talk about how yous actually played? How come yous conceded 3 goals to a Celtic team, as Mark said, and I actually agree. You know, I'm not going to say shite, but I didn't think we were at it. In fact, we were pretty shite, let's be honest, particularly first half. And you're looking at that and going, you just don't want to take any responsibility for this. There's always got to be something else. I don't get it, and it makes you glad that you're not in that camp. Imagine being one of them and feeling that, just filling your head with all that nonsense. It's because it's just so far-fetched, so far removed from what we're watching with our eyes in front of us. It's baffling.
Yeah, I mean, there's a talk about them getting fed the Ludomol constantly, Ibrox, and I think they've had far too many doses of it over the past few months. It's all very well and good because they've been able to beat the rest of the teams in the league, so it's built up their wee confidence a wee bit into thinking they're able to match with us. And the reality of the situation, and we'll have to deal in realities, because what Rangers have been dealing with over the last couple of days is fantasies with some of the narratives they've been trying to push. And the bottom line has really been that Celtic were not at their best. I think most people admit that. However, Celtic still managed to score 3 goals, still created enough chances to score more than the 3 that they actually got. And, you know, as much as Rangers played their part in the fixture, I didn't think, that Celtic at their full strength would have had any problems disposing of that Rangers team. I think Rangers are almost at a point where they're now happy coming to Celtic Park and almost competing. It's actually got that bad for them, because I think going into that game, so many Celtic fans were expecting another one of these games from Postecoglou where we go and produce a 3-4-0. And because that hasn't necessarily happened, you know, I think Celtic fans are naturally feeling slightly underwhelmed. Maybe not the best word to always use on this bus, but I would say slightly underwhelmed with the performance, because they were expecting a lot more in terms of an emphatic victory. But I think when you're looking at it from Rangers' point of view, they know that was an opportunity missed not to get something from the game, and now they're needing to find some sort of narrative, because they've got a Scottish Cup semi-final against us in an all-or-nothing game for them as far as the season goes in terms of trying to win some silverware. It's the Scottish Cup or hee-haw. And I think the fact they now realise they are in last chance saloon at the end of the month, that's why they're now pushing narratives about being good enough and trying to... I feel like this whole thing with the referee, and I'll see what Mark thinks about this as well, is the reason they're pushing this narrative for me, Mark, is because they are looking to put pressure on whoever this referee is going to be in the Scottish Cup semi-final. Because if I'm looking at that and I wasn't having any skin in the game and I was just a normal referee doing my job, I'd be looking at that Scottish Cup semi-final after what's just happened the last couple of days. But fuck that. Please do not have me anywhere fucking near that game. I didn't need that stress, that pressure. I didn't need that going on in my life. And Mark, when I put that to you, is this all a game plan from Rangers looking ahead to the next fixture? Because they know when they lose, they like to go ahead and say, we're going to be better next time.
That's exactly what it is, mate. And as I said there, I think it's more long term. They're looking at, you know what I mean? They look at the bigger picture, I think. And I don't think it's going to be any surprise to anybody to learn that it'll be John Beaton, maybe Andrew Dallas on VAR. It'll be the full strength team. It'll be the Bobby Maddens, that kind of. I will be, boys. It'll be the full lodge. You know what I mean? And do you know, this is the one thing you made a good point there when you said it's got to be on the back of every referee's mind now, and the decisions they're going to make against Rangers. And do you know something? Seeing if I didn't have a horse in the race or anything like that, I would think to myself, "Fuck, do I need this carry on?" And see if that makes a referee think even a wee scintilla of doubt about giving a decision against Rangers, then it's worth it for them. And that is the tactics this mob play. You know, they couldn't just have it having 9 out of 10 referees coming for an Arms Lodge. That wasn't enough for them. They want 10, right? Now, the media silence over this was worrying me. What's the protections of the referee? I mean, can you remember when a couple of things happened about 10 years ago? We had a referee and a linesman who were caught cheating. One of them was like literally caught cheating, trying to get Celtic to
That's right.
Now, the narrative in the media wasn't right. This kid is blown wide open here, and what else is going on behind the scenes? This is just the tip of the iceberg. It was, no, we need to protect the referees here. I remember the guys like Hugh Keevan and the rest of saying, "You get football stopped in this country. We need referees and you don't get that if referees are scared to come through the ranks." Now, an SFA statement and a wee bit in the paper the following day after this news story broke. It took Sky News, an English-based company, to report this before a Scottish newspaper picked it up earlier on. I mean, it just shows you how deep it's gone. And there's a fear in the BBC not to print anything bad because they don't want another 10-year ban, right? There's a fear in the media. You get guys like the boy with the red hair. He was in the BBC. Ended up the guy for Dundee. Jim Spence. He's open. He lost his career. He's open. He said he lost his career because he wrote an article about liquidation, and that cost him his career. Now he's working at Dundee Courier. He actually said that if Rangers wanted to, there's still doors they can have closed on him for the rest of his natural life in terms of his journalism. And do you know what? That is the holiday they've got over us, this country, in terms of in every sector, not just football. I mean, even the referees, the journalism, and there's an inherent fear and bias towards Rangers. And that's a fact. I don't care what I sound like. Like, they see in minutes something does go against them. Nobody calls it out, and the Rangers call it out. Sorry, nobody shouts to come to the defence of the individual. Nobody points out loudly that yes, that is a free kick by the letter of the law. Instead, you've got Rangers fueling the fire. You get Neil McCann squirming in his chair. Chris Boyd, apoplectic with rage. Alan McCoist, a well-respected journalist in England as well. Well, a journalist, I'm not a journalist, but you know what I mean. Well-respected
broadcaster, yes.
Aye, broadcaster. And that fuels that fire. See, Rangers should have come out instantly and slammed the fans. Not putting into a statement which was 80% criticising the SFA, just saying, look, we understand your anger, but this isn't the way to do it. Forget the word anger, rage. If that was Celtic, I expect Celtic to release a false statement slamming Celtic fans. That's what Celtic would do. And then do the nitty-gritty stuff, like criticising the referee behind the scenes. But we're dealing with a club here.
So spot on.
A-class, Boise. A-class, Jono at all. No surprised.
No, I think you've covered that really well. I think that's the reality that you're living in right now. Now, you need to do these desperate acts when you're in desperate situations, Jonathan. And right now, the optics are that the league campaign is done, as you were alluding to at the top of the show when you're doing your intro thingy. And that is the reality is that's got to hurt, because 2 years ago we were in a situation where we didn't know where we were going. We were chasing a management team. I think there was Eddie Howe and his merry men. There was about 500 of them coming, and because 3 of them didn't, Eddie Howe went a cream puff. But that took out 5 months of our recruitment drive. In the meantime, we'd had to suffer John Kennedy in the dugout, leading the team after Neil Lennon's disaster. You then get to the summer, still messing about. Ange comes in at the last minute. They must have been sitting there at that time thinking, here we go, do you know what I mean? This is going to be easy work. They bottled it against Malmo. They didn't qualify for the Champions League. They didn't get their side of the job done. Nobody wants to look at that. That's who they end up. This goes round in circles, all this. They had opportunities to be in better positions than they are, and they've not took them. And eventually now, when you're looking at that league title, it is the bitterness you're beginning to see as the reality sets in that Celtic are back in their groove. Celtic have found their mojo again. Celtic have decided to actually, pick the ball back up. after an inexplicable season, that losing the 10-1. I don't want to dwell on it, but it was so inexplicable to have done that then. But it's like Celtic, for whatever reason, seem to be back in their groove, I would say, and seem to have, whether it be completely an Ange-driven project, this or not, he is still part of Celtic right now. And whilst we seem to be in this sort of mood and this sort of, and with this refreshing, I think, sort of attitude to being fluid in transfer windows, backing the manager, I think I'm seeing far more of a connection with the fan base again as well, in my opinion, at least attempts. And it'll be slowly but surely that can be mended still. You're seeing all that, and you're looking at league tables, as I say, of 12-point gaps, 29 goals. You're seeing Scottish Cup semi-finals on the horizon. You're seeing a League Cup final you just lost under a month ago to your arch rivals, if you like, and they're now beginning to see how this painting is going to be sort of, how this picture is going to be painted. And right now, it's two colours in it, green and white.
It's the old hope that kills you, Russell, when you're looking at it from their point of view. They expected, after stopping the 10, that was going to lead into a cycle of Rangers dominance over a few years. They were kind of probably expecting what's ended up happening with Celtic over the last couple of years to really be the future fate at Ibrox. And it just hasn't worked out that way whatsoever. And they're finding it a very, very bitter pill to swallow on that one. And you look at Rangers, and I think their fans, they're struggling to reconcile with it in a lot of ways, because of the fact of the matter is they actually have been quite good this season. They could still finish on 90 plus points, which normally would be enough to win you the championship. I think that is something that almost gets overlooked as to how good Celtic have had to actually be to have got this 12-point lead. This isn't the same as when Celtic have been doing these sort of massive point differences under Brendan Rodgers. For Rangers weren't really running them close a lot of those seasons. Rangers have kept Celtic honest since Mickey Beales came in, whether by hook or by crook. They haven't actually lost a game or drawn in the league aside from to us. So Rangers fans are now having to accept, if we're beating everybody else, but Celtic are beating us still, they're then left with an uncomfortable reality. Maybe they are just better than us. And that's one they will never be able to accept. And that is when they then have to start looking for other excuses to try and justify why Celtic are where they are and why Rangers are where they are. And make no mistake about it, for me, if they don't win the Scottish Cup semi-final and Celtic go on to secure a treble, you will hear the talks about next season, probably the moment the final whistle goes at Hampden at the end of April, if Celtic go through, and it'll all be about next season. You're already seeing it in the media. You're already seeing Kenny Miller coming out with it yesterday on Clyde.
He was a bit rattled on Clyde, wasn't he? I don't know if you've heard any of it, Matt. Oh, he was. No.
The most rattled I've heard him since Mark Kearney was
shaking a wee bit. It was just. That's right. That's right. Remember that? But he was. You could hear just in his voice, he was getting a wee bit defensive again. It was like, you could feel it. And do you know what? See, at the end of the day, if Celtic have a financial advantage over them that's massive, we're quite happy to call that. But that's because Celtic's earned that financial advantage through results in the park and looking, running the club as a well-oiled machine, as opposed to just taking the pure piss. Let's be absolutely honest. Before I come to you, Mark, on anything else, Ryan M wants a big happy birthday for his auntie. Don't really do shout-outs like that often, Ryan, but since it's your auntie, why not? Happy birthday. I don't know your name.
Auntie Ryan, I don't think that quite works.
Ryan, jeez, we're turned into Clyde one now. Dude. Birthday shout-outs. Where's George Bowie? Anyway, Matt, looking at it from a Celtic prism now, because I think it's only fair, by the way, we call it. These are news items, by the way. If anyone thinks that makes you obsessed, fine. But it's news items in the sport that we follow, which is Scottish football. These are the headline stories are what is going on with one of our leading refs getting threatened, SFA having to do public sort of statements, our nearest rivals doing public ones back in a game that we were involved in, may I add. So of course,
and a game that could end up having repercussions as well. So I think it's right to be discussing this because the story isn't written fully yet for the season, and you never know. A couple of weeks' time, you might be pinpointing this moment in time as a moment Rangers managed to get the referees on their side for that Scottish Cup semi-final. Because if we end up on the receiving end of a dodgy decision, I would imagine most Celtic fans are going to point in that direction, that the referees have been intimidated by what we've seen the last couple of days.
Well, definitely. Mark, let's go back though to where Celtic can now sort of look at improving what has been a dip in form of late. Now, I touched on that on one of the shows. There's been that many recently. And I says, look, see if we're just being completely honest, it's not just been the Rangers game on Saturday. Celtic's been a wee bit below par, I would say, the last 4 or 5. That's just my takeaway from it. I think it would be easy for us just to say it's the missing Fatati. I don't think that's the only reason. I think it's one of many. But notwithstanding that, we're showing right now we seem to have domestically still enough. But you're hearing a lot of this, we know how to get the job done. We find a way. We're hearing that a lot right now. Find a way. Celtic find a way. And that always means, well, that's an acceptance that the performance level hasn't been where it should have been if you hear that sort of rhetoric. So that tells me we can definitely improve on our side of affairs as well. Are we going to?
Well, I think it's going to be a mixture of a few things. It's a mixture of squad rotation, a mixture of teams getting desperate. You're getting towards the tickly side of the season now, you know what I mean? The tickly bit's coming, so there's folk fighting relegation, folk trying to get in the top 6, folk trying to get to Europe. Games are getting tougher for players because their top level survivals are at stake, their bonuses at stake, their European bonuses at stake, so teams get a wee extra edge. Ange has already said a couple of times since he's came to Celtic that he wants the team to finish the season stronger, and it seems to be a narrative that that's the case. Although me and you spoke before, boys, said that I don't think until they came to Celtic, I think he only won the league title twice on actual points. The rest of them were playoff victories. So there is merit in that statement where he's maybe he gets his teams gone at the very end of the season. But I think it's a mixture of that and the form. And I think I totally agree with you. 1 or 2 players, it can't make that much of a difference because the team has been looking a bit slower and a wee bit less sharpy. But it could be, we're getting towards the end of a long season for Celtic. Season started in the end of June, I believe, this season, and I feel like we've had 100 games. Do you know that way? And it's me as a fan, I'm getting tired watching it. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that like I'm getting fed up watching it, but yeah, a season's a long time for a supporter. And the players must feel it as well. I think the breaks at the end of the season's coming probably at a good time for the Celtic players, but we will strengthen in the summertime. And I think there's definitely there's advantages to us just doing enough or seeing it through, because you say, you know what, we've got another 2 years to go, and when we click, then nobody else can live with. Jonathan's absolutely spot on. At what point does the rest of the league, including Rangers, say they don't have to be their best and they're still too good for us? And that reality does kick in a wee bit for some of the fans, not all the fans. And I think Celtic, we've got a lot of gauge to improve. I don't think you can ever draw a line and say we've done enough there, and I feel
That's
like you stagnate. And I don't think the same as your work, boys, so you can never just do enough if you're wanting to get things spot on. You know what I mean? And I think there's areas of the park we all want to improve. We can talk about that if you want. But there's also areas in the park that, although we're happy with them, for instance, Kyogo, there's also scope to improve on which one about him, what's behind him, what his second choice is, what his alternative choice is. Celtic have got all that coming. We've got a big cash pot if we want to spend it. Now, what we're finding is, Jono'S already said that I know there, papers are beginning to say things like Raskin proving his worth to Rangers for next season. They're already kicking into him being the big saver for next season. They've already started hitting it with Beals get Ange rocking, and you know, it's his 3rd game and he's not laid a glove on Ange yet. I wasn't all that convinced the last 5 minutes of the game the other day that we were going to win the match, but I'm never like that anyway. So that's no barometer, do you know that? But I tell you something, Ange probably felt a bit more comfortable in the Celtic skin than what the rest of us did. And we've got another 2 years to go minimum. And has the rest of the league, including Rangers, got another 2 years to go where the players have got without the financial turmoil they're on? No. It's up to Celtic to put that final nail in the other final coffin they've got, because the last one didn't bury them. Hopefully this one does bury them. Not just literally bury them, but we need to. I would rather have 4, 5, 6 years of Rangers absolutely struggling than seeing them being put down with the sewers with the rats where they belong. I'd rather see them struggle in the Premier League, getting beat out of teams like Hearts and Hibs than beating Cove Rangers 6-0 at Ibrox. I'd rather see Rangers struggle than see that, because they didn't deserve that out when they got it. But it was still fun to watch them play and get a ball stuck in the bushes.
It'd be funny them in the bottom 6 and that, eh?
I
That'd be funny.
would love to have seen
That
it.
would
Can you
be
imagine them
brilliant,
boys? Can you imagine their punishment? Well, no punishment, because they never got punished. Let's get one thing right. They started again. No punishment was involved. But can you imagine they were put in the Premier League as a new club, and do you know what? They did receive a transfer ban, or they couldn't compete financially. Can you imagine them finishing seventh and 8th in the league? How long would they have got 45,000 at a game? I don't think it would have been long.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think they bought into it a lot more, the fans, when they actually had to restart again, because they were playing clubs they hadn't really played before and were getting to go to places they hadn't been. So they could buy into the sort of advertising of the journey. Exactly. They can buy into that advertisement. I don't think they'd want to do the journey part 2 if that was to end up becoming the sequel. And I certainly don't think they would appreciate, being stuck languishing in mid-table in the league. I think the interesting thing is, I think because of the way Rangers have been approaching things the last few days is making me even more of the belief that something is happening behind the scenes at Ibrox that they don't want people to know about, and the deflection is up. The question, I guess, from a Celtic point of view, though, is, are we going to continue to focus on our own business whilst this is going on, or are we going to be looking over that garden fence and seeing it's an absolute fucking state? They've let the weeds grow again. And we can now just go and take it easy and sit pretty out on our deck, and then all of a sudden our garden ends up back in a similar shitty place in a few years' time when Ange Postecoglou leaves. And I think that is the question that we'll probably find the answer to in the summer, because there's no two ways about it. For me, Celtic are only going up on an upwards trajectory. Whilst the performance hasn't been as good of late, they are still on course for potentially a record points haul in the league. They could still end up winning a treble, by the way, against a Rangers team that, and I'll say it again, they're not actually as bad as people might like to make them out. They're certainly quite competitive in the games we've played against them. They were in a European final only 12 months ago. So I think this treble for me would be quite an unbelievable achievement if you were to win it and you were ranking it amongst the other ones that we've actually done this century. It would be right up there with any of the ones I think we've won. So I think when you're looking at it from that point of view, if Celtic were to manage to have such a successful season, do they, Russell, then continue to put the foot down on the gas, particularly if there is going to be bad news coming out of Ibrox and they don't have as much money to spend as perhaps Mickey Beale thought he was going to have to spend in the summer?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it's just when you're saying things like the journey to, do you know what I mean? If they get wind of that in Hollywood, Kate Winslet will be phoning Leonardo DiCaprio on the Titanic. 2 will be coming back before you know it. Hey, if there's legs in that, you know what I mean?
It'll be Liquidation, the prequel. We'll call it the prequel. So it's like a new journey. It's the prequel to the previous journey, so it's still the one journey. They've always found a way of making it fucking... they're idiotic and cleverness.
We'll find out with stuff like that. I mean, I just think from our point of view, if Celtic do decide they're just going to focus on Celtic, that means there'll be further progress this summer. If Celtic decide we like being the best team in Scotland, we like qualifying for the Champions League, even if we invest, we can't compete at that level anyway, then we'll end up regressing again like we did last time round. I just have a feeling, we did shows last summer in particular, Mark, talking about board's ambitions, etc., and the lack of spending and frustrations that we had with that, and a sort of small-minded mindset that they sort of had towards it. I don't know why this year. I don't know. The more we've been on the journey, this season following Celtic, I just feel like something's changed in the air, and I can't put my finger on it. I don't know why. I just think Celtic will this summer push on, regardless of what's happening at the with our rivals and stuff. I think this time round they will definitely be Mark. I think they're going to be definitely looking ahead, not over their shoulder this time. Because see, the one thing you're allowed to do in life is make mistakes. Everyone does. Everyone makes mistakes. If you don't learn from them and you keep repeating them, then you're a bit of an idiot, right? I would like to think now that Celtic have probably found themselves in a space they didn't expect and have went, do you know what, this is quite good. You know, the turnover's back over 100 million. How did we do that? Because you had to. You had to invest in the team. You had to, okay, you sold players for good money, but we can do that again as well. And you reinvested the vast majority of it, all the transfer money you recouped in the first team. Look at the difference in the results. All the fans are inside because you've got an engaging manager in there. No matter how you came across Ange, and I dare say I don't think it was their foresight. I think that was a tip off Mark Lawwell, who is now in the building. I do feel this time around, sign is different this time. I don't think, regardless of what happens with Rangers, and maybe it is wishful thinking, by the way. Maybe, I don't know why my mood sort of changed on it, because last summer I would have said, nah, we'll make sure we're better than them if that were to happen. Now I just feel the mood music's changed a wee bit, Mark, and I think Celtic will keep the foot down on the gas, and, well, everyone else can say whatever they want Celtic's foot to be down. But I think Celtic will definitely motor on and not continuously look over their shoulder.
Well, it was the Grand National Week this week, voices, so I'll sum it up to you. I don't think a good jockey is spending half the race looking behind him. If he focuses on his job and just plods ahead, you know what I mean, eventually he'll be out of sight for everybody behind him. And Celtic have got to have that mindset. Like, we spoke about it, our frustrations. We'll not go back, I'll not go back there, but I think there is like a wee bit of an Einstein moment where you say to yourself, you repeat the same things and you end up with insanity. It's a definition of insanity. Maybe the Celtic have found that they don't want to be insane anymore. They're fed up hitting the same brick wall. And a lot of it is, I heard Gordon Stratton say before, and he's quite right. Every Celtic manager's got a timeline or a time scale on them or a shelf life.
Next Friday, yep.
That's it.
And do you know what? Maybe the Celtic board are very, very aware of this, and they thought to themselves, do you know what? We don't want to heavily invest on the same person for them to leave, and then we're starting with again, because the first thing when a manager comes in, unless he's a kind of identical manager for a structure which Celtic didn't have at any time in our history, we've never had a structure we just kind of motor on with piece by piece. You just replace one player, replace a manager that's just motors on. It's always been a new system, a new style with this Celtic way merged in amongst it. And what if we're building something for the future here, which I hope we are. I don't think we're going to keep Ange forever, but we can always pick his brains. We can always learn from this guy, use him as a way I think we can learn up the stairs, like, in terms of changing the philosophy to certain people's thinkings. And if that might not be certain board members, it could be at least be our CEO or our football department, where we work to one structure and one goal only. And if you keep doing that, then there's always going to be progression within the club, regardless of who the manager is. And that might just mean a case of a manager coming in, instead of getting the 25 million we've been getting for the first season and the 6 or 8 million in the second season, and then it just whittling down. A gradual progression, building key areas, nominating areas of the park that we can see weaknesses in, and strengthening them. If that means replacing a fan's favourite second choice striker and buying a centre back that's going to take you to that next level, then so be it. Ange has already prepared the fan base. I've always said that just because Ange said it doesn't mean it's a good idea. But one thing we've all got used to as Celtic fans, maybe not so much the fans growing up in the 90s, all in John Collins. We never saw many heroes get sold, although there was a boys money left for, but never saw many players leave because not a lot of them done enough for Celtic for them to be on a high level and then get sold to the EPL. We all know about the three stooges that left, not the three amigos, the three stooges. But so as a fan base, we're getting used to the fact now that our heroes will be leaving, and I'm happy for that if it means the club are going to progress. And I think if the mindset's changed, I don't think the shelf life of our manager or the personnel in the boardroom will matter that much. If the club's ethos is a 21st century club ready to move on to the next level, pushing every boundaries, and if that means spending that extra fiver to gain the millions in Europe every season, it doesn't matter what Rangers do, because until Rangers gets their arses fixed into a long-term module that's going to get them long-term success rather than short-term trophies every now and again, they're never going to compete with Celtic. Celtic have got this thing, this new in their head now that the fan base have now. We've seen it with Neil, we've seen it with Stratton, we saw it with Rodgers, that we've had so many chances just to firm up the fact that we are top dogs in this city, in this country. We want to get to the next level. And this is the chance, not just to be just about Rangers, but this is the chance for Celtic to now totally firm themselves up as the club in Scotland. And if Celtic think about it that way, nothing they do matters, and then Europe will come after.
Oh no, I agree. I agree 100%. I think when it comes to stuff like that, you've always got to focus on yourself, and try and improve on yourselves first. You can't be looking at your competitors constantly on things like this. And I think we have been far too guilty of it at times over the past, 10 years. 10 in a row was there for us. I don't want to go over the old ground, but that was, the club not having their eyes on the ball enough to actually carry it through. The approach, I think, since Postecoglou's came in has been different. I think, obviously, part of that has been because it needed to be different, considering the position Postecoglou found Celtic in when he first came through the door. However, I do also think, that Celtic now have Postecoglou in there. They want to make sure they keep him happy. And in order to do that, Ange Postecoglou is a project man. I think he is, pretty committed to the football club. I don't think he's one of these guys who's going to jump at the first time he gets an offer to go to England. But I think, at the same time, Postecoglou is going to expect the club to show that same level of commitment with him in terms of actually improving the squad. And I think, you make a very good point. If the Champions League, for every tenner it's given us, maybe we should be spending a fiver of it just to try and, improve our financial position and try and, push on once more in Europe. And, at the same time, it sends a little message to the other side of the city as to what you can do with money if you're smart. I think when you're looking at all of this, Celtic are in a brilliant position. I think especially over the next few weeks, we're going to find out just how successful they're going to be this season. But the treble is absolutely there for us. A record points total is absolutely there for us. And I think, performances, hilariously, I think most fans would probably say haven't been quite as good the last few weeks as we've seen under Postecoglou previously, and we're still looking for ways to improve. Whereas I think a lot of people in this sort of position, Russell, would probably turn around and thinking, looking at the stats, thinking, how do you actually improve on this? And we're almost acting a bit too picky about how much we're expecting out of the club. But I think that expectancy is a good thing because it keeps everyone on their toes. And I think that's actually driven by the manager the most.
But I think as well, when you say that, that just reflects what we're talking about at the top of the show. When you say that's because we actually look at our own side. Do you know what I mean? We look at them with our bidgery eyes, and we go, actually, that could be improved on. It's not every time we've not played well for a multitude of other reasons that aren't our fault, But Mark, I just want your thoughts before we let you go, because it'll be Sutton Death time just shortly. Oh, I don't know if I froze. Did I freeze there?
You did.
Can you hear me all right?
Aye.
Yep.
Can you hear me now, Mark?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Aye, sound. What I was going to say, how much does it matter to you, things like record points totals, potential world record goals tally this could be this year in the league as well? I mean, that's what it could be. And I think when you hear all this stuff about a gap, the gap's not that big. What, from the team with the record ever SPL points tally, the team with a world record goals tally in a league domestic season, or top flight domestic season, I think it is, Torino in 125 or something. These are mad stats that I'm reading, and it's usually Patrick McLaughlin in the comments. Firstly, Mark, how much does that mean to you, these sort of records? And secondly, does that tell you that regardless of all this noise about gaps, there has to be a gap if you're getting to those sort of milestones?
Well, I'm extremely petty when it comes to Celtic, mate. I want Celtic to be ahead of Rangers in every single scenario, every single start and every single medal count, no matter what it is. So the Celtic are actually breaking their own records here. Celtic are breaking their own records. I mean, there's no a record that Celtic haven't held at one time in their career. We're the first team to win a domestic double in world football. We're the first team to get over 130,000 at a domestic cup final. First team for a non-Latin team to win the European Cup. We've always been the first to do a lot of things in world football, so that's nothing new to us. And I like the fact that Celtic are always mentioned when it comes to stats and record breakers. And I got a great pride when I hear Celtic's name get mentioned with these things, because the level of opposition and all these other things can be cast aside for a minute, and you just kind of realise that Celtic are at a special place in that moment in time when you see the Celtic's name up there. And I totally think that it'll be quite a wee bit of a proud moment that when Celtic beat their own records, because that's where the records that normally are. Celtic are sitting there with them anyway. And it's going to be good for Ange to put another wee notch in his Celtic belt and say, look, this is another record I broke for you. My last season, I lost my first three out of 7 games or whatever it was. I didn't look back, and not only did I improve on that, I'm beginning to break records for you, including Brendan Rodgers, a guy who's liked or hated, but as a football manager, there's no questions within the fan base about how good he was. And no, it was the second part of your question, voices. Sorry.
I know the gap, mate. I'm saying if you were to achieve these sort of milestones,
well,
how could there not be a gap? What are you taking?
Well, how big's the gap between Jordan's legs, mate? Let's be quite honest with you, mate. I mean, I don't think for a minute there can't be a gap when you've got a team winning potentially 5 out of 6 trophies. They'll get rhyming off all these stats that you just mentioned and all the rest of it. But the great thing, as I've said before, as Jockstein says, see, as long as teams and other managers just think we're being lucky, then they'll never try and fix the matter. And that's good for us. And I know it's hard to take and hard to accept. You're reading newspapers and Kenny Miller's saying that Celtic were lucky and all the rest of it. Do you know what? In a way, we should be laughing at that. But it's just natural for us to get angry. I'll let you go because I've got no fears whatsoever, Jonathan. You're going to beat Boise night, mate. Anybody
thanks,
allowed to
Judge.
say you're going to beat them, mate. You should enjoy yourself. I'm
Cheers,
you.
Mark. Appreciate that.
You, mate. Cheers.
Cheers, Judge Kelly. See you later, mate. And as one exits the building, in comes another legend. Finlay, there he is. Boom.
Evening, Phil. I always said Mark Kieran's my favourite judge. Ever tell you that? My favourite judge. Judge Judy, just been put in the pecking order. Far prefer Judge Kieran.
Phil, make sure this question's a fucking stinker tonight, mate. Telling you, make sure it's a stinker.
I don't know if I can say it's a stinker. Again, it's only easy if you know it. It's only a stinker, you know. If you're stumped here, I think it's. We'll see. Once I unveil it, you know, I'll be able to gauge by the reaction on your faces.
He was holding his pen about half an hour ago. I noticed Jonathan making a point. He had a pen in his hand. I'm like, what's he been doing? Revising or what? Get it away.
I always keep my pen handy. Now, you never know, just in case you say something worthwhile to note down. This doesn't happen often. But, you know, I like to have a pen just in case we get one of those moments of inspiration from you on hand.
Fair enough, mate. It's worth that. It's a Kodak moment, and it's definitely worth writing down if I say something of any sort of use to anyone ever. But
it's always here for you, just in case.
Thanks,
I'm ready to go. The next time you come up with a bit of inspiration, I'll be sure to jot it down for you.
Thanks, mate.
We'll pop it in the diary. At that moment, you said something that I've taken on board and listened to.
Well, guys, it's that time again. It's that time. It's time for a bit of Sutton Death. Last week, we had a double bill of it because we were a week behind because of Russell's house move. So we had 2 rounds. He's won a round each last week, which kept the status quo at 3 points. So there are 8 points left to play for at this stage. 8 more rounds, including tonight. So yeah, the end date is now in sight. So yeah, there are 3 points for Russell currently on 14, Jonathan on 11. So I'll get all the aesthetics set up. You can do your usual talking trash to each other or whatever you wish to do at this stage, and I'll get all that set up just now, and then we'll be good to go.
I suppose the one question I've got for you, Jonathan, is on the back of that show today and the hilarity that we found at the fact that obviously there is a gap. Do you acknowledge there's a gap in the Sutton Death title race as well?
I mean, there's a benchmark you need to follow, Russell, but, the season isn't over quite yet. So whilst you might be the benchmark at the moment, I can still work my way towards that. Benchmark. I'm not silly like Mickey Beale. I'm going to go and write a complaint letter to Phil if it's question tonight.
Oh my God! Oh dearie me! Yeah. Don't be writing no complaint letters to me. Yeah, there is still time here, but yeah, Jonathan, it is getting to squeaky bum time. You do need to get the points on the board soon. It could start tonight, but we'll find out in a matter of moments. So I will hit the music, and we will get ready to go. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes.
You guys okay? And let's have a look, and I'll just make sure that the comments on the. Saying that the music's gone crazy again like it did a few weeks back. It seems to be fine. Right, cool. Nice one. I think we're good to go then. So yes, Last week, as I say, we did 2 rounds. So the second round, which is the most recent one, was won by you, Jonathan. So do you wish to go first or second in this one?
Oh, I'm going to keep to going first, I think, Phil. Thank you.
Keep to going first, no problem at all. I know Russell mixed it up last week and actually surprised us all by saying he'd let you go first on one, but no, stick to the tradition. Fair dues. Okay, so tonight...
I think they call it showboating, Phil. It's what you do when you're miles clear.
Oh, okay, is that how it is? Well, let's see how it's going to be. There's going to be 4 points or 2 points in it tonight. Let's get going. So tonight's question has a very nice 22 answers to it. Ooh. Nice generous number. And it's all about a specific region in the world. It's all about Scandinavia, an area that Celtic have been quite successful in their shopping. So it's quite simply, Scandinavia has always been a region we've found much success in. So quite simply, guys, can you name any Celtic player who's played at least one first-team game from the year 2000 to present day, whose nationality is that of any of the Scandinavian countries? And just for clarification, that's Norway, Finland, Denmark, Sweden, and Iceland.
Okay.
That's why Mum's got Iceland.
That's a brilliant question again. I don't know how you do this.
I don't know how you do this either. I don't know how you do this, but I'll start us off and I'll take Henrik Larsson.
Of course. I would be surprised if he wasn't the first answer.
John Guidetti.
Yes, indeed.
Johan Mjällby.
Of course.
Mikael Lustig. Lustig?
Easy for you to say, but yes, Mikael Lustig.
With your Dick Advocate accent, Mikael Lustig from the Eredivisie. What are you talking about?
I don't know why. I was distracted. I was trying to write a different name at the same time and say that one, and it all just came out wrong.
Oh, it definitely did. I am going to say Freddie Ljungberg.
Yes, Freddie Ljungberg. Yeah, he did play at least one game. Very few.
I've got a few. We'll go Morten Vikost.
Morten Vikost would be correct, yes.
Okay, I am going to go for another Morten. I'm going to go for Morten Rasmussen.
Yeah, Big Duncan they called him. That was his nickname, wasn't it? Big Duncan Rasmussen. But yes, he is a correct answer. That was a nickname that he came with. Apparently he modelled his game after Duncan Ferguson. There you go.
Brilliant. Not a very good striker either, this one. Mo Bangura.
No. Mo Bangura was from Sierra Leone. He played in Sweden, but he was
he's Swedish, mate. Trust me, he's half Swedish. He's definitely.
Oh, that's half stuff and all that. No.
He's Swedish, mate.
Sierra Leone.
Bangura's Swedish.
No, I don't think he was Swedish.
No.
Yeah,
I didn't think he was. We have to put this to VAR. Are we gonna have to put this to VAR?
I was convinced he was a bit Swedish.
I mean, that's a really... I mean, it says a place above Sierra Leone on Wikipedia.
Nah, you can...
Man, Mo Bangura is a professional football from Sierra Leone. Is the very first line on his... he was signed for a Swedish club, yes.
Yeah.
But he's a Sierra Leone international as well.
I
don't know what that counts for, but there you go. So that has to go down as a miss. So that's hit the post, that one.
It's unfortunate. Stefan Johansson.
Stefan Johansson is indeed correct, and that means that Jonathan, controversially tonight, gets the point and gets himself back.
That's stupid.
Matt O'Reilly, Russell, Eric Sivachenko. There were so many to choose from.
I went for obscure ones. I told you I'm showboating.
When I had the answers, I thought, will one of them say Matt O'Reilly? Will one of them actually pick up on what I said in the question and pick up on it? So you mentioned them out loud there. Well done, Jonathan. He was on your mind.
Oh, I had them written down.
Aye. There was two that I was worried that you would go for, because obviously the question was tonight after the year 2000. If you said Mark Reaper, you'd be wrong, because the last game he played was in 1998. And the other one was Harold Bratback, who left in January 2000 but didn't play a game for us in the year 2000.
I actually did think of Bratback.
Bratback would have been a wrong answer if you said them. But the other right answers that were left are obviously Carl Starfelt, Daniel Mastorovic, Erik Sviatchenko, Joe Ingeberget, Christopher Ayer, Magnus Hedman, Matt O'Reilly, Mohamed El Yunusi, Teddy Bjarnason. That was the only Icelandic one. Played one game under Gordon Strack.
I can't remember his name. I was thinking of all these obscure ones.
Teemu Pukki. Obviously, the only Finnish representative, Thomas Gravesen. Thomas Rogner, Ulrich Lawson, and Vidar Risef.
That was shite.
You were disappointed me there, Russell. That was very poor. I mean, that was very poor. I mean, I had plenty left in the tank. You let yourself down. You're better than that.
I did let the team down.
As a result, the score is now 14-12 with 7 points left to play for.
Oh, it's getting a bit closer.
What do I need? 3 more still, and that's me 1.
If you get 3 more, it takes you to 17. Yeah, you would need to win 3 more to win it. Aye.
I'm quite confident I'll do that.
The gap is closing, unlike the gap in the Scottish Premiership.
Mind the gap. Anyway, that was good fun. That was good fun. Right, okay, that winds it up. I was about to say, that's just after 10 at night. It's 10 to 8. What are we going to do the rest of the evening? This is bizarre. Obviously, well, we know what you're doing, Jonathan, watching the Champions League. Apparently, who's playing?
I'll do a bit of a scouting report on Manchester City Bayern Munich for us.
Well, I mean, the City group connections, you probably will be doing as a favour doing a bit of scouting there because you just don't know. Could be a wee obscure sub that comes on the night.
Well, that's it. Just in case Phil hits us with any City. Yeah, any sort of Man City or Bayern Munich links I might get out tonight. Just do my homework, Russell. You should try it sometime.
I was never good at doing my homework. Right, okay, we will leave it there. We'll go watch the football. What's coming up this week? We will be back tomorrow. We're meant to be back tomorrow for the breakfast, but I'm in 2 minds because I think we've done that many recently. It might be a wee bit overkill.
Talked a lot about Saturday's events. What more can you say?
And I think David and Johnny can't do it. So me and Connor for the 3rd time since the game. I think me and him I think we'll probably just leave it tomorrow, to be honest. I think we can have this one. We'll have a wee day off. We might do a bus stop, Phil. We could record a bus stop tomorrow.
On our best behaviour, will we be? Yeah.
I'm never on my best behaviour. Someone will annoy me between now and then. We could do a wee bus stop tomorrow night, and then Thursday we'll do the TNF. I will be back here, so I'll be able to hit up, but I might just let Steve host it and just operate in the background so he's he can sort of find his feet. We're hosting it because Thursdays are going to be a nightmare going forward in general for me. So I should be back in time for that. What's happening on Nostalgia this week? You got any plans as of yet?
Oh, I do, mate. I do indeed. It's not the best of seasons, but as we know, this was always going to happen. We're going to get to the sort of there was a few grim seasons still to go. No, that's next week. We're going to do the season before that. We've got Strachan's final season to do first, the 08-09 season. And then next week, we'll go on to the 2009-10 season, which is Mowbray's. But obviously, we'll be talking about the sort of anticlimax that was Strachan's final season, the infamous January window, where we only brought in Willow Flood. And Peter Lawwell made that comment about, it's really hard to sign players in January. But then a year later, when Tony Mowbray was in charge, it was like 1 in, 2 out and stuff like that during the January window. So it's like, wait a minute here. Yeah. So we'll be talking about that season. We need to tick off the rubbish season, sadly. So that'll be.
I think it's quite a good idea, though, Phil, because we're closing in and win the league now, so you're kind of getting those rubbish seasons out to give a bit of perspective, make people appreciate these league titles when we have more. So
never take it for granted.
Yes,
indeed. Take it for granted, exactly.
Anyway, mind the gap.
When you've all that stuff at the start, they won't be playing Tina Turner on the coach on the way home, will they?
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now. And you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan. He's a Rangers puppet. He's a cheerleader. That's what he is.